Welcome back. The next chapter in our book is called A Clue and a Closed Door. As Hunter and Rusty unlocked their bikes, they saw Greg a block away watching them. Rusty wanted to go and beat him. No, Hunter said, we're just going to give him the slip and then go on to Jancy's house. They walked their bikes up to the steep street between the fort and the church. Greg was following them. Across from the parade ground, Hunter told Rusty, is the governor's mansion. There's a big shed. We're going to slip inside and hide until Greg goes by. Then he'll think we're on our way to West Bluff. How will we get to East Bluff? Easy, I'll show you the shortcut. At just the right place, there was a curve in the street that hid them from Greg's view. They got into the shed, unseen by Greg. From their shelter, the boys watched Greg coming up the hill. He mounted his bike and rode by, looking very pleased with himself. Rusty just snickered. I wonder how far he'll go before he figures out he's not following us. Several miles, I hope, Hunter answered. As they rode to the East Bluff, the boys decided it would be fun to tell Jancy they were trying to catch the bike thief and find bicycles. She might get a kick out of that. When they reached her house, Jancy came running out, full of eagerness, wearing blue shorts and a blue and white top. Her shining hair had a small blue scarf. Picking up Minnie's bike, she put her towel in the basket. Got your suit? Rusty answered. It's under my clothes, she said. This is going to be fun. Wait till you hear the really fun stuff, Rusty said. Hunter and I are on the trail of a mysterious bicycle thief. Don't tell anyone, but... Wow, Jancy squealed with excitement. I read Nancy Drew mysteries. Have you any clues? Can I help you? As the three set off together, with Hunter leading the way and Rusty telling Jancy about the second disappearance of the handicapped rider on a different bike, and he told him about Greg spying for Kirby. At Sugarloaf they stopped, and Hunter stayed with the bikes while Rusty showed Jan the rock teepee and told her the story. Just as the other two joined him, Hunter saw Greg off in the distance. He scowled. Somehow that kid had discovered he was on the false trail and came looking for them again. Don't look now, Hunter told his friends, but our shadow has caught up with us again. We're going to have to lose him. I'll ride ahead, and when I hold up my hand, do exactly what I do, and fast. The road they followed wound around like a snake's track through the woods. After rounding an extra sharp curve, Hunter held up one hand, leaped off his bike, and dragged it into a thick tangle of bushes at one side. Rusty and Jancy did the same, bubbling with suppressed laughter, and they all lay there hidden. Hunter wriggled forward on his stomach until he could see the road as it approached the corner. He kept his head low with his eyes on the road. Soon Greg came along, slowed, and got off his bike. Hunter almost stopped breathing. Greg wasn't an Indian and couldn't read tracks, so what was he doing? Carefully, Greg peeked around the corner and then rode on again. Oh, he didn't want to be seen. That was it. As soon as Greg had disappeared, Rusty sat up, ready to go. Hunter said they must give Greg 10 minutes to get to the Harrison crossroads and then decide where to go next. Hunter used that time to record in his notebook about Greg's spying for Kirby and how they had thrown him off their track. Rusty told Jancy more about the detective work and the haunted house. At last, Hunter said they could move on. When they came to the crossroads, Hunter studied the tracks that had been made by Greg's tires. Luckily, there'd been no traffic since then. He's going toward British Landing, Hunter reported. Then he went a few yards toward the village, changed his mind, and rode back to town. Hooray! Rusty shout out. Hunter, Jancy said admiringly, you read tracks the way the rest of us read road signs. They took the road to the landing. At the battlefield marker, they stopped for a look at the haunted house. It was a sorry wreck. The roof had caved in where a tree had fallen on it, and the walls were sagging. One support of the porch had rotten away, giving it a fallen look. While taking all of this in, Hunter noticed that there was a narrow path that was worn through the tall, dry grass. It went around to the back of the house. It was not an animal trail. Curious, Hunter followed it, with others on his heels. He led to a basement door with no handle. Hunter pushed against it, but nothing happened. All three kids leaned against it as hard as they could, but the door would still not budge. That's weird, Hunter said. Last summer, this door was open, hanging on one hinge. I suppose the Mackinac Commission had to have it shut for safety. but somebody's been going in and out because the path is being used. Let's go in and down the stairs, Jancy suggested. Hunter answered, There's no stairs to the basement. There has to be stairs, Jancy insisted. You're right, Rusty agreed. Let's go in and find out. Hunter shrugged. The kids returned to the porch. The front door was locked, but there were big windows from which the glass was gone. Is it safe to go in? Jancy asked. Sure, Hunter said. Ghosts don't bug you during the day. Rusty climbed in and helped Jancy. Just as her feet touched the floor, a high-pitched screech went running through the house. The kids turned stiff as stones. Terrified, Jancy clutched Rusty's hand. His freckles stood out on his skin like pepper on a fried egg. Hunter, grinning, did not move for a long minute. Then he came through the window and laid his hand on Rusty's shoulder. It's only bats. In the roof, he said. Bats? Jancy screamed. That's worse than ghosts. After that, the kids surveyed the room. On the ragged remains of the large rug stood a lopsided rocking chair with only one rocker. Also, a chair with a broken leg and no seat. There were jagged pieces of glass and cigarette butts and beer cans and dirt littering the floor. Jancy wrinkled her nose in disgust. I didn't know ghosts were so messy. Watching where they put their feet, the three children went exploring. They opened every door and poked in every closet, but they could find no stairs to the basement. Rusty was stumped. You're right, Hunter. There's no way to go down. But let's go to the second floor and look around there. Hunter vetoed that. The stairs to the upstairs were dangerous. There were wooden supports that were rotten, and some of the stairs were missing. Besides, Jancy said with a grin, we'd stir up the ghosts again. At that moment, there was another spine-tingling shriek from the roof. Let's get out of here, she said. As they picked up their bikes, they turned back for another look. That is a real haunted house, she announced. I would like to draw it. I'll draw the living room with the ghost floating, the missing stairs, and another one sitting at the bottomless chair. Put in the bats, Rusty suggested, for sound effects. Those two seemed to have forgotten the mystery of the path to the closed door, but Hunter was puzzled over it again when they got to the lake. The afternoon sun was shining on the lake, making it the bluest of blues. Before long, all three were swimming in the water. The boys were awed to see what a good swimmer and a great diver Jancy was. They were all having a ball. In a few minutes, a lively family of tourists arrived. They left their rented bikes by the road and joined in the fun. Everyone was having such fun together that even Hunter forgot the new mystery at the haunted house. Finally, the father told his family to sit in the sun and dry off. Jancy asked the time and said she ought to get dried off too. The family and the three friends sat together on the dock and began asking Hunter questions about Mackinac. They listened, fascinated to his stories about the Indians and the French and the British and the Americans who all shared in the history of the island. At last they had to break up the fun. The younger boy went to the road where he had left his green rental leaning against the tree. Where's my bike? He asked. Hunter and Rusty sprang to their feet. Frantic searching by the whole group turned up no trace of the missing bike. Rusty turned as red as a cardinal bird. That thief took the bike right from under our noses. It makes me so mad. Jancy said to the boy, I know exactly how you feel. My bike was stolen too. It was a saddened family that went off to report the lost bike, with the boy riding on his dad's handlebars. Well, Hunter said, we've another chance to track the thief to his hideout. But which way did he go? I bet he took the center road. No, Rusty said, that's steep and slow. I'm sure he'd go the way we did the other day, around Pine Point. You can speed along there. Let's make a two-pronged attack, Hunter suggested. You go that way, and I'll go the other. Jancy, which way do you want to go? I better take the fast way, she said. Aunt Myra's going to be expecting me. As soon as the other two had started, Hunter took one more look where the boy's bike had been parked. On the brown grass beside the road were a few tiny spots of bright green. Hunter touched them, and his fingertips turned green. Paint, he said. I bet the thief used spray paint on the ID number. Now it would be like he's riding a private bike with only a license tag. If Rusty and Jancy see him now, they won't know it's a stolen bike. He shouted, "Woohoo! I found out one of the ways the thief works." Hunter set off at top speed for the center road, where he met several tourist rigs and cyclists. He also saw Kirby coming away from the dump. There was no sign of any thief. Once more, he had done the disappearing act. Hot and discouraged, Hunter headed for home. When he reached the path to the cabin, he saw a large tourist carryall stopped in front of the haunted house. The passengers were reading the historic marker, and the driver had added a few dramatic touches to the story. Hunter, listening, grinned to himself. Then there was a movement at the back of the house that caught his eye. A low, crouched-over figure took a quick look at the departing tourists and then got out of sight. Hunter was electrified. It looked like the same guy he had seen there last night. What was he doing? Dropping his bike, Hunter ran to the back of the house. He was there just in time to see the fellow get on a bike and whiz around the corner. Hunter went rushing after him. In his excitement and hurry, he stumbled on the rough ground and took a head spill. He wasn't hurt, but he had lost precious seconds in chasing him. When he got to where he could see, the man was riding furiously down toward Shore Road. He was about 50 yards away, but Hunter could see that the bike he was on was green, and it had no ID number on the back fender. The man was bent over double and had his cap pulled low over his face. From this distance, Hunter could not tell what he looked like. He hurried back and got on his own bike. Although the man was already out of sight, at Lakeshore Boulevard, the tracks showed plainly that the rider went to the right. Hunter went speeding after him. In a few minutes, he felt a thrill. Not too far ahead was the man, still crouching over the handlebars, as if his very life depended on how fast he went. Hunter pedaled even harder, impatient to get a good look at the suspect and to see the license number. Gradually, he gained ground on him. He could see that the man's clothes were of all one piece, kind of like a jumpsuit, and splotchy colored. Without slowing down, the rider skidded around Hairpin Turn at Pine Point. When Hunter made the turn, the guy was out of sight around another bend in the road. But Hunter knew there was a mile-long straight stretch a little further on. He would see the fellow there and maybe be able to overtake him. On reaching the straightaway, Hunter put on the brakes and stared. There wasn't a soul in sight. How had the man vanished? Remembering how he and the others had tricked Greg in the woods, Hunter rode slowly, with his keen eyes taking in the roadside to see if the man had slipped into the bushes. There was no sign of him. With a shrug, he turned around and set out for home. At the Witzerick entrance, he paused. The man could have ducked in there to avoid him. He scanned the driveway. Yes, a bike had skidded into the lane recently, going fast, and sprayed gravel far and wide. The boy's heart was pounding as he walked his bike up the private road. He was getting very near to the man now. He must be careful. When he reached his large rustic house, set in a clearing and surrounded by a vegetable and flower garden, he halted. No one was visible. He didn't want to be accused of trespassing, so he went up to the back door. Inside, near an open window, a woman was singing quietly to herself. At Hunter's knock, the singing stopped. The door was opened by a middle-aged woman whose hair was knotted at the back of her thin neck. She looked surprised to see a visitor at her house, but she said, "Can I help you?" Hunter's tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth. He licked his lips. "Yes, I hope so. Did you happen to see a weird-looking guy riding into your yard a few minutes ago? He was riding a stolen bicycle." A change came over Mrs. Witzerick's face. She seemed to turn grayish and look much older. "What makes you say that?" she snapped at him. One slim hand fluttered to cover her shaking lips, while the other hand groped for the door that she slammed in Hunter's face. See you later.